Hello and welcome to the Effortless Being podcast. I'm your podcast host, Deandra, and as always, I'm super excited to be here. If you're new here, hello and welcome. On this podcast, we talk about habits, lifestyle changes that we could learn and implement into our life to change our state of mind. I love including faith and spirituality into my podcast in any way that I can. And also, I am a very vulnerable person. I'm going to tell you when I'm struggling with something too, right? I'm human and we're in this together, this beautiful thing that we call life together. So, yeah, I'll tell you, like, oh, I'm struggling with this too. So, please expect vulnerability on my podcast. We already have over 180 episodes in English and in Spanish, so 90 and 90. I'll leave the link down below. Whether you listen to podcast episodes on podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon. I don't know what the other platforms are, but there's so many that this podcast is on. If you go there, you can listen to the 180 episodes. They're not on YouTube. Disclaimer, this podcast is an informational and educational podcast only. I am not intending to give you therapy. I'm not intending to diagnose you. I'm not intending to tell you how to live your life. It's just educational and informational. If you do need a therapist or if you would like to seek counseling, there are many platforms where you could find a counselor. If you're not insured, there are some sliding scales that some agencies offer. So based on your income, that's what you will pay for a session. There's also many therapists that you can find on Psychology Today. So if you're looking for a therapist, if you do need counseling, that is available. And if you are in a crisis, there is a hotline that you can call, which is 988. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about escapism and dissociation. We're going to talk about what this is, why we do it, and what we can do to regulate ourselves in these moments that we are dissociating or escaping. This episode was a request by one of my followers on Instagram. The question specifically asked, is there something wrong with escapism and dissociation? And my answer to that is no. I'm not saying that it's helpful or beneficial, but it is something that you learned and it is how you learn to survive. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but my answer to that is no. What I really hope that you learn with this episode is that there is nothing wrong with you. It's not what is wrong with you, but what happened to you. What happened to you that made you go into these behaviors, these subconscious and automatic behaviors of dissociating and escaping. So, what is escapism? Escapism has to do with that we behaviors that we engage in, kind of like distractions, to run away from our feelings, to run away from our thoughts that are happening in the present moment. It's kind of a way of escaping from reality, but it's through our behaviors and what we're doing. There are unhelpful forms of escapism and helpful forms of escapism. So we'll go ahead and go over the helpful forms first. This is like when we take a walk, like when we're feeling those feelings, overwhelming feelings, and we take a walk or we talk to a friend or we go to the gym and we exercise or we go on a run. This is where we use our coping techniques, right? And then there are unhelpful ones. So not that they're bad. They're not bad. They're giving you that temporary relief, but it's not a relief for the long run, which like your helpful escape forms of escapism are kind of going more towards the long run. And the unhelpful ones are like, I just want instant gratification now. I just want relief now. So this is like when we're feeling something very intensely and we play video games or we scroll on TikTok. This could be overeating, eating a whole tub of ice cream when we're feeling emotionally overwhelmed. So they're just distractions that are giving us comfort in the moment. And both, right? Both are giving us some type of comfort, except this one's kind of giving me the comfort right now, and that thing is going to come back and I'm again not going to know how to cope with it, right? Whereas this one, the helpful, talking to a friend, taking a walk, taking a run, exercising, breathing techniques, this is it might not give me the instant relief, but over time it will. Dissociation and escapism are not the same thing. So, dissociation is when we leave our body, when we feel disconnected from our emotions, our thoughts, our feelings. We feel disconnected from our body, from ourself. Like I'm here, but I'm not here. In the DSM-5, which is the book that we use to diagnose as therapists. I'm not licensed yet, but I am a practicing therapist. Diagnose patients. So in this book, this is classified as DD. So it's depersonalization, derealization disorder. So depersonalization is that one like where what I just said, it's dissociative in nature and it's like we're leaving our body, we're here, but we're not here. I'm disconnected from my emotions, I'm disconnected from my thoughts, I'm disconnected from my body and from my sense of self. And also derealization. So this is where we feel like we're in a dream, like our life is not ours, like our reality is not real. Depersonalization is when we're disconnected from ourselves, and derealization is when we're disconnected from our environment. Again, disclaimer, please do not use this episode to diagnose yourself. There's so much more that goes into this, and I'm literally just giving you the surface level definition, okay? So please, if you have these experiences, I highly recommend you to see a therapist or a psychiatrist and get more information on it. To a certain extent, we all experience dissociation. Daydreaming is also a form of dissociation, which we all do as human beings. When we're driving home and we're daydreaming, and then we get home and we're like, how did we even get here? Because we were so disconnected from our mind and our body. We weren't present, right? That is common, right? That does not mean that you have dissociation. And that's why I'm saying it's so important not to diagnose yourself because of this episode. Why do we do this? I want to start off by asking you to have so much compassion for yourself if you do find yourself maybe engaging in these behaviors, because it might be very unconscious for you. This disorder has a lot to do with trauma. A lot of people who are diagnosed with this disorder do experience a lot of trauma. So what trauma does to us is that sometimes it is too much for our brain to handle. It is too much for our body to handle the trauma, that it shuts down. Our capacity to cope has been surpassed with that event that we just went through or that we went through in the past. So our body decides the best way to deal with this is to just shut down. So that's what it does, right? We go into this hypoarousal state where our body shuts down, we withdraw, we isolate. Our survival modes that we go into: fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn. I think there's another one. Oh no, I think fawn was the one that was added. We dissociate, we go into freeze, right? We shut down, we freeze. So this is when our body, our mind literally believes there is a bear and I am in so much danger. I'm gonna die and I don't have the capacity to deal with this, so I'm just gonna freeze. I'm gonna shut down. That's how we're gonna cope with this, by shutting down, by not coping. It's a little bit, there's a little bit of avoidance here. And again, this is not to judge you, I'm just providing information to you on the reason why it happens. This is a trauma response. Dissociation is a trauma response. Escapism is a trauma response. It is how your body learned to cope with severe stress or just stress. It learned, this is too much for me to handle, so I'm going to shut down. I'm going to daydream. I'm going to disconnect from my body and from my environment and from my emotions and from the people around me. This is the only way I have to survive. So, like I said, it's not what's wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with dissociation and with escapism. It is a learned behavior. This is how you learn to survive. That's how your body learned. This is how I become safe, by dissociating and by escaping. And so there's nothing wrong with you for doing this, but I do have to ask, is it helping you now? Is it necessary now? Are you dying now? Is there a bear now? because it might feel like there's a bear. It might feel like there's a bear and I have to shut down, but is there a bear? What do we do? How do we create safety in the body? This is what our body is craving when we go into this hypoarousal state. I want to introduce the window of tolerance, which is part of the polyvagal theory. It's our window of tolerance. This is where we're able to tolerate that feeling of unsafety in this case. In my window, I am emotionally regulated, I'm present, I'm calm. I can still sit with this very uncomfortable emotion. There's a clarity of the mind and we're grounded, right? I still haven't left my window. I'm still in my capacity. I can still cope with this. I might be feeling a little bit of danger, but I'm still in my window. And then there's hyper arousal. So this is like that flight, fight. This is where my body thinks there's a bear and I believe that I must fight with this bear or flight. There's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of panic, I'm overthinking, my heart is racing, I'm irritable. And then there's a hypoarousal state. So this is again where we tend to dissociate, where we feel disconnected from ourselves, from our emotions. We might feel numb, we might withdraw, we feel overwhelmed with emotions that we just shut down. So, what I want you to do is, I want you to recognize when you're in your window, what does that feel like? When you're grounded, what does that feel like? We're gonna break this down, okay? I learned this in therapy. 5 is like your baseline. That's where you're right in the middle. Not that we're never gonna go to hyperarousal or hypoarousal, but we always want to come back to that 5, right? So I want you to assess, what does a 5 look like? This is where you're extremely grounded, extremely present, where you feel a lot of safety. What does this look like? What does it feel like? What are you doing? What are your thoughts like? Please assess that now. Ideally, it's like 5 in the middle and then 6, 7. That's the corner of the window. That's the corner of your window where you're about to go into hyper arousal. And then once you go into your hyper arousal, it's 8, 9, and 10. Like you're at your edge. When you're at a 10, like that's like the most, like I'm like about to have a panic attack. That's when you're at 10. Hypoarousal, it's like we're at our 5, right? We're at our baseline. We're grounded. We feel safe. We feel protected. We're present. We're emotionally regulated. And then there's 4 and 3. That's where you're about to leave your window of tolerance and enter hypoarousal. So once you're in hypoarousal, that's 2, 1, and 0. And that's the edge where you're literally about to shut down and dissociate completely. So I want you to recognize, what is your body like when you're at a 3? We're only going to focus on hypoarousal because dissociation has a lot to do with hypoarousal. So when you're at a 3 and you're about to leave your window, you're still in your window, but you're about to leave it. What does that feel like? What does your body feel like? What are your thoughts like in that moment? What are you thinking? Where do you feel fear? Do you feel it in your chest? Do you feel it in your stomach? Where does it come up for you? The reason I'm asking you to recognize this is because we want to build awareness. That way we can stop the pattern from happening. This is simply a pattern. This is a habit that you learn to survive, but we can unlearn it. We can learn something different. So the first thing that we want to do to learn something different is become aware of when we're in that cycle, when we're about to leave our window and we feel extremely dysregulated. So again, what does that look like for you? What does your body look like? Is your breath maybe like, are you breathing slower? Are you on the edge of like becoming a little bit numb? What does a 3 look like for you? So I want you to assess that. And the reason why I'm asking you to do it before you enter hypoarousal is because what we want to do is stay in our window, right? A lot of times we try to use our coping skills, our breathing, our 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding technique, walking and meditation when we've already left our window and completely shut down. And it's very hard. It's not impossible, obviously, but it's very hard to get back into your window. So what we want to do is avoid getting out of our window. Practice this before I leave my body so that I can avoid leaving my window. You know yourself more than anyone. What are those behaviors like when you're about to leave your window? What are you doing when you're about to leave your window? What are you thinking when you're about to leave your window? When you're at a 3. Next time this happens, I want you to tell yourself, where on my window of tolerance am I? Am I at a 5? All right, great. Am I at a 4? Maybe like I'm becoming a little dysregulated. I can feel it. My body feels a little um unsafe, but I can still cope with it. Maybe we might just want to do like a small breathing technique right there. Like breathe in for 4, hold it for 7, breathe out for 8. Or box breathing. Breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4. Maybe if I'm at a 3 and I'm about to leave my window, I can do this 3 times. And then I can assess, okay, am I at a 4 now? Am I at a 5? Am I back at my baseline? Great. If not, then maybe we might need something different. Like maybe we might need to go for a walk, or maybe we might need to talk to a friend. Maybe we might need to go exercise so that our body does not continue to resort to that coping skill that it learned, which is to shut down. Shutting down and dissociating is a coping skill. If you have like completely left your window of tolerance and maybe you're like at a 1 or a 0, like you're completely shut down, numb, disconnected from your mind, from your emotions, from your environment, then this is kind of where we want to shock the brain. We want to shock the brain. So we can do this by, some people eat like something sour. It shocks the brain. Some people do temperature regulation where they put their face in ice cold water. It could also be smelling something strong, maybe doing like an intense workout. I've said this before and I learned this from a therapist that humming, that resets your nervous system, and there's research to back this up. And so what I want you to do is assess, become aware, okay, I'm at a 0, I need to do something right now to shock my brain, to stimulate my brain. So I am going to eat a sour candy, or I am going to do a temperature regulation where I put my face in really cold water. I might hum, or I might do an intense workout to shock my brain and come back to my window. And then I want you to assess, okay, maybe I didn't come back to my window, but now I'm at a 2. So that's better. Okay, what can we do now? I'm a little more regulated, so now I can maybe go for a walk and that'll help me come to a 3 or a 4. You know your coping skills. You know what works for you. Is it breathing? Is it running? Is it exercising? Is it cooking? Is it spending time with friends? Is it all of them? Is it none of them? You know yourself. So, what are your coping mechanisms? What helps you the most? And we are using all of those to get back to our 5. And if it's only one thing, and maybe I just need to call up a friend and be like, hey, like I'm just feeling really sad right now, or when I wanted some support. Like, okay, if that's all it takes and you're back at your 5, great. If not, it's okay. It's feedback, right? You're learning what works for you and what doesn't. So you're the expert in your life. You know what works for you. You know what doesn't. Before, you used to play video games for 3 hours straight. Before, you might have felt unsafe and went straight to your fridge to relieve the sensations. But now we're using different coping skills. Yoga, Pilates, all those mind body connection exercises are so great. Like exercise in itself is so great because it's that mind body connection. It brings us back to the present moment. When you are becoming aware of this, I want to highlight, be compassionate towards yourself. You went through something that made you do this. You went through an experience, big T or little t, big trauma or little trauma. I believe that we all experience trauma in our life, whether it's big trauma or little trauma. So please, please, please practice compassion for yourself in these moments. Forgive yourself. When you find yourself doing this, hey, we're safe now. Hey, I know you had to do this to survive back then, but we're safe now. We no longer have to do this. It's safe here. My environment is safe. The world is a safe place. I'm right here. I'm going to take care of you now. Before, they might have been no one to take care of us, but hey, I'm here now and I'm going to take care of you now. I'm the adult now. I'm going to take care of you. So please practice compassion in these moments. You went through something that you should not have gone through, but you did go through it. And continuing to do this, right? Continuing to practice this, being compassionate with yourself as you inevitably engage in escapism and as your brain inevitably goes back to that pattern that it learned to survive. bringing it back and practicing that coping skill, that is helpful. That is going to help you heal that part of you that is extremely afraid. And sometimes we're going to have to engage in those escapism behaviors, right? Sometimes when we're extremely um, ungrounded, sometimes it is beneficial to watch TV if that helps you. So, like I said, it is not a bad thing, guys. You're not a bad person. There's nothing wrong with you if you dissociate or you engage in escapism. It is just something you learned. It is a coping skill that you learned to deal with feeling unsafe. Now, is it helping you now? That's a question for you to answer. Is there something that you want to change? That is a question for you to answer. Let's do one exercise together. Oh, this is also another coping skill that you can use, which is the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding technique, where 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can touch, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. You might want to assess how you feel before starting this technique and then how you feel after doing it, just to see if it works for you. And you might want to do this with every technique you use. So if you use a breathing technique, if you call a friend, or if you go on a walk, on a run, exercise, assess how you feel before doing it, where you are on your window of tolerance, and then how you feel after doing it, to see if it's working for you. And if it's working for you, keep doing more of that and keep practicing this. And we want to be really connected to our body right now. So we want to make sure that we're breathing. So what are 5 things that you can see right now? I can see my purse. I can see my TV. I can see my pillows. I can see my camera. I can see my blanket. 4 things I can hear right now. I can hear myself breathing. I can hear the cars passing by. I can hear the fan. And I can hear my dog. So 3 things that I can touch. I can touch my hair. I can touch my microphone. ASMR. I can touch my pants. So this is so grounding with our touch, right? Because I'm literally touching. I'm reminding myself, I'm connecting with my body again. I'm reminding myself that I'm here. I'm here in my environment and it is safe here. 2 things I can smell. I can smell the perfume that I sprayed this morning on myself, and I can smell my room scent. But do you recognize how I literally had to come back to my present moment? Like I had to really think about what I can smell, what I can taste, and I'm no longer thinking about the thing that triggered me and the thing that activated me and how there's a bear and the thoughts that keep making me feel unsafe. I'm now thinking about what is here, what am I doing? I'm coming back to my environment. And then lastly, 1 thing I can taste. I can kind of taste the metal in my braces. And then a breath. There's so much more to dissociation and to trauma, guys. This is really just a surface level. Like I said, please do not use this episode to diagnose yourself or diagnose anyone around you. That's all I have for you all in today's episode. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for showing up for yourself. If you haven't already done so, please hit that subscribe button. I would love to know your thoughts on YouTube. So please leave a comment, share your thoughts on this episode or on the podcast, or if anything resonated with you or did not. And also, if you are listening to the episode on podcast or Spotify or Amazon, I would love if you could leave us a 5-star review if that resonates with you, or leave us a review on what your thoughts on the podcast are. If you think this would be helpful for a friend, then go ahead and share it with them. And that's all I have for you all in today's episode. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll catch you on the next one.